Hello everybody, you are looking live at a spectacle of magnificent proportion. It's Lee Pitts Live right here at the famed Gateway High School, one of Lee County's newest high schools, the state of the art. We're so thrilled to unveil here a rising star in the area of literature. She has penned an outstanding novel, Dr. Ebony Green, and the book is Arts of Liberation. Dr. Green, welcome to Lee Pitts Live.
Thank you for having me.
Let's bump you in. Congratulations on such a fine and inspirational book.
I appreciate that.
The Arts of Liberation, the title. Why?
Acts of Liberation is about freeing yourself, right? Like this idea that we live in a space of rules and how other people view us. And so when you have the audacity to like walk in who you are authentically and occupy space, that's an act of liberation.
How would you define the word liberation?
It's freedom. It's authenticity. It's being who you actually are here to be as opposed to being who other people need you to be. And so when you walk outside the line or color outside the circles, it's very liberating to just be who you are.
Let's go back on you for a minute. To put together a book like this, tell us the early stages of when you were interested and how you got interested in actually writing.
So I've always written here and there, blogs, posts, etc. This particular book actually came in the middle of the night. I was actually sleeping, and I started to see a handwriting. And so in my head, I'm like, "What is that?" And so I'm assuming it was a dream. I woke up the next day, and I was like, "I think I have a book I need to write." And so I got up that day and started writing the book based on the chapters that I could remember. And then subsequent to that time, I ended up adding chapters and taking some away. But essentially, it was literally just a dream that I had.
What has been some of the response that you have gotten from people who've gotten a chance to read your book?
It's interesting because multiple people have read from different fields and walks of life. And so for some people, it's figuring out a way to kind of own who they are and be okay with their imperfection. For others, it's this awareness that they're here to do something great. And so they have to start to peel back the layers of like, what are the stories you tell yourself and how has that impacted who you are? And for others, it's an opportunity to just kind of start to love who they are and value their worth.
The cover design, you have the steps here. People can see that on screen now. You just talk about, if you're looking at that cover, what should people notice?
So I want to give appreciation to Logic Thompson, who actually did the cover. And so the cover is really about there's multiple competing priorities at all times, right? And so off to the left and the right, you'll see some going up, some carrying stuff. And then you're going into this place, which is the tower, which really emphasizes the different challenges that we experience in life. And the question is, are we willing to observe and reflect on ourselves in a way that allows us to get closer to the best version of ourselves?
The lie, are you worthy? Chapter 4. When I was reading chapter 4, I know you have some really good chapters in here, but chapter 4 to me was the chapter that's like, this is really interesting. Summarize chapter 4 to people. The lie and are you worthy? So
chapter 4, it helps us think about the ways in which we've told ourselves stories that in some ways have become barriers to our success.
For example?
When you're a parent and you're doing your best to work really hard to get the things to provide to your children, and you don't realize or recognize that what they really want is you, but the world has told you the things you can give them is more valuable than who you are.
Right, just the simple things, right? How can people get your book?
They can go on Amazon. There's a link, you can just jump right on, order it, purchase it, and it comes right to you.
Just type that in, technology these days, huh?
Yep.
Let's talk about chapter 6. What's at stake? Finding freedom.
Yeah, so that was about being able to, there's a line in that chapter that says, I walked out of comfort and leaned into faith. And basically it's understanding that what's at stake is you being able to live in your most authentic self. What's at stake is being able to occupy space and acknowledge your value and worth, irrespective of someone else can acknowledge your value and worth. And so we live in a world that kind of teaches us that our worth is based on other people's affirmations. And so the first way to really lean into living life authentically in a liberated way is being able to love yourself and then irrespective of whether people love you, like you, or have no real opinion, you realize that you still have and retain that value and worth.
When people walk away from having read your book, what do you hope that they take away from the experience?
I hope my most important piece I hope they take away is that the importance of reflection silently by yourself, right? That it's okay to reflect on your mistakes, to resolve them, to forgive them, to heal from them. But you can't really start that process until we actually engage in real reflection of who we are, our leadership, not just our leadership in the careers that we occupy, but our leadership in our actual life, our personal lives. So the biggest piece is just to reflect. 2 is to ask yourself the tough questions about where you're going and how you got there and where do you want to go. And 3 is to make sure that when you are moving forward in the world, whether it's through careers, relationships, is you fundamentally have to understand your values and what is most aligned to you, right? And so if you're not clear of what your values and what you believe, then you end up in spaces and places that don't always serve you well.
Now, when I was reading this book, and I will say that I think it's going to be a bestseller. When I was reading the book, I was also sensing some sense of how you place your spirituality. It was still woven within some of the discussion. It was sort of spiritual in a way. Was that your intent, to make it a sort of a spiritual book as well?
I don't think it was my intent. I think ultimately I'm very aware that all of us are blessed by grace. And so with that, it's just a piece of who I am. And so it helped me navigate a very difficult time in my life to really understand fundamentally who I was. And so the goal is for folks to, whatever it is you need or you believe in, what are the ways in which you are able to kind of lean into that piece and that aspect of you to really kind of undo some of the pain points, challenges, things that don't necessarily resonate with you anymore, to move in the direction that's most appropriate.
Now, you're here in Fort Myers, Florida today, and you're going to be speaking at a conference. I want you to tell people what conference that is and what your message is. What will your message be about?
It's the Progressive Women's Conference, and the message is really around value and worth, right? Value and worth, and showing up as who you are authentically, and reimagining what next could look like, because sometimes we don't even think about next because we're so stuck in the current place we're situated. But hopefully by the time our chat tomorrow is over, there will be many women who really are invigorated, empowered, and realizing that they're all here to do something amazing.
How can the book be helpful to individuals and organizations?
Well, I think what's not included in the book is it's called the Active Liberation Framework. And so what that is a process that we engage organizations with to really think about how do we lift up and leverage innovation and voice and identities. And so part of what we're seeing is what the Great Resignation, and I think a piece of that is because we somehow forgot that COVID was an experience for everybody to go through, and in that process, folks came out different than they went in. And so how do we make sure that there's systems of care, right? Because the book is really about how do you care for yourself, and you can't care for yourself until you care for others until you care for yourself. And so it allows leaders to really be reflective. It allows leaders to think about the ways in which they can lift up and leverage voice to move towards a space of innovation.
Who should read The Arts of Liberation?
I think everyone should read it.
Right.
I think folks who are...
All age groups?
All age groups, right? I purposely made
Genders,
the book so that everyone could jump in. I'm hoping that, and the beauty of it is you can look at it at different parts of your life and it will resonate very differently. When I started to write the book, as opposed to, 2 years later, when I looked back, I was a different person. And so I found a different place to jump in that resonated more. So the book is age appropriate. I purposely made it so that anybody can read it. And imagine what happens if young people realize early, 1, that they're here for something great, irrespective of how others value them. 2, that they always have value and worth, and that's not negotiable based on what the world says. And that 3, essentially living your most authentic space, living as the person who dreams out loud, actually will get them to a place a lot quicker than, let's say, myself or others got to.
Why don't you pick up your book and read an excerpt from your book, if you will? So, start here. Without the glasses, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Nearsighted.
Emerging from the tower, you are ready to stand in your conviction and realize your value, your worth, and most importantly, your gifts. Standing strong among the rubble of false foundations, you are still here. Scars of beauty, strength, resolve, and conviction. You are reborn as a stranger, wiser, more grounded, and intuitive self. You are a witness to and an observer of your own success and devotion to your purpose. You are divinely guided to your path. Grasp the magic of faith and wisdom. You are the phoenix. It is your time to rise.
Excellent. Would you describe your book as a motivational book?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because it gives you permission. It gives you permission to dream and do all the things that in some way, shape, or form you may not believe you're capable of.
I'm gonna get an autograph while you're autographing this. We'll continue skinny.
Absolutely.
It's autograph right there. So when I sell it on eBay, I'll be able to prove that I actually got an autograph when I auction it off for $500,000. As you're writing that, do you have any other books in your head now you're thinking?
I do.
Go ahead, talk about that.
So that one's called Acts. Well, essentially it would be written to really focus on how do you free yourself from yourself. And so it'll be the second in the series, and it really focuses on, now how do you live? Like once you find your purpose, then what? And so the last year of my life, I've been spending time thinking about and figuring out, now that I've realized it, now how do I live in a space of revolution, which is really walking out on faith all the time. And so it should be here shortly.
Who's your favorite writer?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a couple, but I probably would say Maya Angelou is one of the top people.
Why?
Because she inspires us to be audacious.
Okay.
Right? And she asks us to do that in an unapologetic way.
What's your favorite chapter in the book and why?
Throat chakra, the second chapter.
Oh, not my favorite? Your favorite.
That one's a really amazing chapter to me. The reason I feel like the throat chakra is a precursor to 4 as a woman, because it took me a long time to find my voice and value it. And so if you can't figure out how to communicate your needs, even though someone's asking you, it's problematic because you never can then stand in the space of transformation.
Where are you from? People see you here, they're like, well, where's she from, Lee? Where are you from? Tell us a little background about you.
I'm from New York, upstate New York. Grew up in the country.
Got your doctorate where?
Yes, I did.
Go ahead, give me a little.
From Russell Sage. I've been to several schools in New York, but Russell Sage was my last landing spot. I got my EDD there. And now I work for my own company.
Okay. Final words of inspiration to our viewing audience.
I mean, imagine the world if we all understood our gifts. I mean, and that's in the book. Like, if you can walk forward and understand you can take risks and you can believe in yourself, there's nothing you can't achieve. But you have to be willing to liberate yourself from yourself.
How is it to have that cool name, Ebony?
It's awesome.
Was that like your real name or that's your pen name?
That is my real name from my parents.
Did they tell you why?
Because it's strong. Right? Black and strong.
That's a really cool name. Well, Dr. Ebony Green, your parents would be proud of the acts of liberation, people. Don't walk out and get it. Run out and get it. It's endorsed by Lee Pitts right here on Lee Pitts Live. And you're going to really enjoy yourself and get on to a better life. As the saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they are usually interrupted by those like Dr. Green in her fine book. And also, Miami may have the oranges, but Gateway High School has got the
juice.
Got the juice. We'll be right back.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, everybody. This is Lee. I'm so glad that you watched that particular show. And if you enjoyed that show, we got other shows like that. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Watch Lee Pitts Live on demand anytime. And also hit us up on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live. And there you go.